Good afternoon and welcome to the Weather Gurus channel. I'm your host Tony. I want to give you the latest 5 p.m. update on Tropical Storm Laura. Now, Laura continues to strengthen. The winds are at 50 miles an hour, sustained winds, and it is forecast to continue moving westward through Puerto Rico on its way to Dominican Republic. The minimum central pressure is holding steady at 1,004 millibars, and it's moving west at 18 miles an hour. Pretty fast movement there so far around the western periphery of the subtropical high here, the Bermuda High, excuse me. Now, the forecast track from the Hurricane Center has it moving over significant portions of land. And so, because of which, I do not anticipate extreme strengthening. Although I will say that the tropical storm force wind field has expanded since the last advisory. I believe the tropical storm force winds now extend out some 205 miles from the center. And Puerto Rico reported sustained winds around 35 miles an hour with a gust of 40 miles an hour. So there is some tropical storm winds within Laura as we speak. But those winds extend out 205 miles from the center. But back to the discussion, what I want to tell you is that, first of all, Tropical Storm Laura is going to be going over a significant amount of land, Hispaniola and Cuba, in the next day. And so we won't have a good picture of what Laura's true intensity will be until it gets out into the Gulf of Mexico on Monday afternoon, late Monday afternoon, like 5 p.m. And so because of which, we do not know the true intensity of the system. Right now, I would have to say that it looks good. There is good inflow and outflow here noted on the satellite radar composite. And also very little wind shear with this one. And so Laura does have the potential to become a hurricane, maybe even a major hurricane, when it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. But it's going to have to go through this transformation phase. And what I mean is, the high mountains of Hispaniola and the high mountains of Cuba will seek to interrupt the circulation of this system. It is not clear how much it will weaken this system. It could weaken it down to 40 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour to a depression when it enters the Gulf of Mexico, and then it can rapidly re-intensify in the Gulf of Mexico to a major hurricane, possibly a Cat 3. But the issue I have with the forecast is that the amount of landmass this thing has to go over is just going to be just tremendously detrimental to the system. And although the Hurricane Center notes that that it's gonna keep the same intensity, I just don't think so. So I look for a weakening trend to begin probably Sunday night into Monday morning, as it is into Cuba and stuff like that. Once it gets in the Gulf of Mexico, yeah, there's some strengthening, and it may be conservative. Yes, I agree that it could be a major hurricane. I also think that another thing too is that is going to be dictated is the track. I do not think this is going to be impacting the Louisiana, Mississippi coastline. This is going into the northern Gulf Coast again. Once again, Florida, Panhandle, and Alabama should be more concerned about this Laura, because it's going to make a huge turn to the north. The turn to the north is going to be earlier than anticipated. So once the system passes Key West, Florida, anybody from the Panhandle of Florida down to about Tampa, St. Pete area needs to be concerned about this system, because you're going to be on the east side of all of this system, all of this convection that's associated with Laura. I think the turn to the north is going to be earlier than this turn to the north indicated on this cone. And so the turn to the north is going to happen just as the system passes the Key West and the Florida Straits into the Gulf of Mexico and turns into a hurricane again. And then the turn to the north will happen. So once again, the Florida Panhandle is going to be in the crosshairs for this system, and not Louisiana, not Mississippi, or anything like that, and definitely not Texas. So that's where this system is headed. That's later on down the road, though. We have a couple of days. So that's like I'm talking about Wednesday before they'll make Tuesday or Wednesday before they'll make the changes to this cone and all of that. But I'm giving you a heads up. Once again, the Florida Panhandle could be looking at 2 back-to-back storms coming into its location. Now, the second scenario that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to be honest with you. The second scenario is this. The system could get over land, over this much real estate. And let's say this is true. And it could fall apart completely. And so what we have left over in the Gulf is more like a tropical wave. Okay? The system could get over in the Gulf of Mexico, and it could just fall apart completely, and what we could have left up here is just a tropical wave. If that happens, then I don't think it will have a hard time reforming itself into a hurricane. And so what will happen is we'll end up with a minimal tropical storm, maybe a 40-mile-an-hour, 50-mile-an-hour tropical storm coming into the panhandle once again. Okay, so that's the two scenarios I want to explain to you. But I think the first scenario is more likely. It will get to hurricane status, maybe more major hurricane status with this warm water and low shear, as the Hurricane Center claims, rightly notes. But the problem is that the turn to the north is going to happen very, very soon in the track. I'll give it by, if the speed continues like this shows, then Tuesday afternoon, and once it passes Key West and head north, that turn to north is going to be heading straight for the Florida Panhandle. The direction is going to be straight north, due north with Hurricane Laura, if it does indeed pan out that way. So that's the update for the 5 p.m. update. I'll be back with an 11 p.m. update. Just wanted to give you that heads up that anybody along from the Panhandle to Alabama, Mobile should be prepared for Laura to come into them right now. And that could be happening if it slows down. It could be as late as Thursday morning. If it's going on the same speed, north, if it goes north at 15 miles an hour or 10 miles an hour, then that could be Wednesday morning. You could be looking at a system at your doorstep. So thank you very much. This is the Weather Guru. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Please subscribe, and I'll be sure to hear from you soon. Thank you.